Bobby, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? Boy, oh boy, the walls are really closing in on Canelo and Gennady Golovkin when it comes to facing the best middleweights in the world. And I'm not just talking about them facing each other. Up until this point, Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez have both been avoiding Jermall Charlo. And Gennady Golovkin, he had already given up one of his belts so he could avoid his mandatory Sergey Derevyanchenko. Golovkin, he decided to fight the much easier Vanes Martirosyan. He was about to give up his WBC belt to avoid Jermall Charlo, but he ended up losing to Canelo Alvarez before that could happen. You know, I interviewed Abel Sanchez, Gennady Golovkin's trainer, plenty of times, and I remember when Canelo was still fighting at 154, Abel Sanchez told me in an interview, he said Canelo's not going to fight those guys, those monsters at 154. Abel Sanchez, he said they were too athletic and they would give Canelo all kinds of problems. Then all of a sudden, you fast forward time, and now Jermall Charlo is Gennady Golovkin's mandatory before Golovkin loses to Canelo Alvarez. And that same fighter that Abel Sanchez was praising before, now Abel Sanchez has nothing but negative things to say about Jermall Charlo. He doesn't deserve to fight against Gennady Golovkin. He hasn't fought anyone. He's disrespectful. He's this. He doesn't get a shot, as Mickey was saying Rocky. So my point is, Gennady Golovkin never had any plans of facing Jermall Charlo. But when he lost to Canelo Alvarez, that threw a serious monkey wrench in the program, because now the WBC has ordered Gennady Golovkin to fight Jermall Charlo to get another Canelo match. So the question is, does Gennady Golovkin agree with all of these fans that say Charlo is overrated, Charlo is really not that good, he was overhyped, he's a bum, etc., etc., etc.? We know that Gennady Golovkin, he decided to fight Vanes Martirosyan instead of Sergey Derevyanchenko. Why? Because he knew that Vanes Martirosyan was an easy fight. He knew that that was a guaranteed win. In fact, the same fans that say stuff like Charlo is a bum and he's not that good, these were the same fans that were defending Golovkin when he fought against Vanes Martirosyan, and they said, come on, Dante, Golovkin, he just had a tough fight against Canelo Alvarez. He can't have two tough fights back to back. So you see how these fans, they accidentally tell the truth when they're forced to? Since you fans believe that Charlo is no longer that dangerous, he is an exposed fighter, he's not that good, he was overhyped, etc., etc., etc. Now, since you guys believe that, that means Gennady Golovkin, he should be fighting Charlo next, just like he fought Vanes Martirosyan with no hesitation, right? But you guys know that that fight is not going to happen next for Gennady Golovkin, because not even Gennady Golovkin agrees with you when he hears these decafs say this crazy stuff. Charlo is not that good and he's this and he's that. If Golovkin heard you fans say that, he would say, you don't know nothing about boxing. You think Charlo is not that good? Are you crazy? That's what Golovkin would tell you fans. He would say, why do you think I'm not getting in the ring with him next? That's exactly what he would tell you. That's why you can never take these fans seriously. You can never take these fans seriously. When it comes to Gennady Golovkin losing to Canelo Alvarez, once again, you had all of these fans and all of these writers that were saying Gennady Golovkin was robbed. But then when we interviewed the professional fighters, the majority of them said Gennady Golovkin won the fight. There was no robbery. So why the division when it comes to who won this fight? The answer is simple. It's because professional boxers, they don't have a personal agenda when they give you their thoughts. Writers and boxing fans, they do. Because fans, they did, as they would try to say about Charlo, they truly did overhype Gennady Golovkin, and now they're forced to save face by trying to say, oh, he did win that fight. Once again, these fans, they have no choice. They have to say that. Because if you admit that Gennady Golovkin lost to Canelo, then you would have to admit he was the biggest hype job of this generation. Once again, we never said that Jermall Charlo was pound for pound #1 the best fighter in the world. We never said that Jermall Charlo, he beats every single fighter hands down at the middleweight division, and he's top 25, the greatest middleweight behind Bernard Hopkins, etc., etc. We've never said these things about Jermall Charlo. So once again, no one overhyped Jermall Charlo. Gennady Golovkin is the fighter that fans overhyped. Because those are all things that they said about Gennady Golovkin when Golovkin did not do enough in the ring to deserve that type of praise. And now the truth about Gennady Golovkin is coming to light. You know, I just did a video talking about Jermall Charlo wanting Golovkin and Canelo next and saying that he's still the best. And I told you guys in that video that I personally still believe that Jermall Charlo, he beats Canelo Alvarez. I'd always believed that he beats Gennady Golovkin. I think Canelo would be a more tougher fight. It's more of a 50-50 fight. I think he stops Gennady Golovkin. But I told you guys that, once again, Jermall Charlo is still Canelo Alvarez's mandatory. I want to see the fight. And I told you guys, I'm realistic. I believe because that is a 50-50 fight, Canelo versus Charlo, that Canelo could easily win that fight. There's a possibility he can win the fight, and it wouldn't surprise me because the fight is that close. But even if I knew going into that fight that Charlo would lose, I still want to see the fight because that is what a real boxing fan wants. A real boxing fan wants to see the best fight the best, regardless if your guy is going to win or lose. But the funny thing is, when I did that video, I had all of these Canelo Alvarez fans saying Canelo would destroy him, Canelo would beat him, Canelo would beat him. But once again, nobody, or at least not that many, there were a couple, but it's a small percentage, not enough. Not too many fans were saying, I really hope Canelo fights Charlo next, or fights Danny Jacobs and then fights Jermall Charlo, etc., etc., etc. Because if I truly believe that Canelo Alvarez would beat Jermall Charlo easy, that Jermall Charlo wasn't on Canelo's level, and let's just say I was one of the only people that believe this, and I'm telling you guys, Canelo would beat Charlo, and nobody believed me. If that were the case, I would want to see that fight badly, just so I could prove to everyone that I was right. See, that's the way you think when you truly have confidence in the guy you're rooting for. Once again, you don't say, oh man, my guy would win, but I don't really want to see that fight. You guys go back to my last video, you will see the comments in the comment section. There are Canelo fans still saying they don't want to see Canelo versus Charlo. One Canelo fan, he said, nah, I think that Jermall Charlo, he should have to fight Karabov in a rematch first. Once again, if you believe that Canelo Alvarez beats Jermall Charlo decisively, why wouldn't you want your favorite fighter or one of your favorite fighters to be the first person to put that blemish on Jermall Charlo's record? Why wouldn't you want that? The only reason you wouldn't want that is because you have doubts, because you believe, and it doesn't necessarily mean you believe that Charlo beats Canelo hands down. What it really means or implies is that you know that Jermall Charlo has a better chance of beating Canelo than some of Canelo's cherry picks, like Rocky Fielding, like Liam Smith, like Amir Khan, like Matthew Hatton, And the list goes on and on and on. Because you know that Charlo has a better chance of beating Canelo than those fighters, that is what frightens you. Because once again, it makes no sense for you guys to fill up the comment section saying, oh, he beats his ass, he beats his ass, he beats him easy. You guys are speaking for Canelo Alvarez, but Canelo Alvarez is not taking any action. Canelo is not telling the public he can't wait to fight against Charlo, etc., etc. You guys that are speaking for Canelo, when Canelo is not saying these things himself, you guys pretty much sound like that girlfriend that's telling big dudes in the club that her man will whoop all their ass, but yet her man don't want to fight none of them. Let that man speak for himself. Let that man prove that he can do what his girlfriend is claiming that he can do. And don't get me wrong, guys. It's okay for you to say Canelo whoops his ass, Canelo beats him easy. But if you're going to say that, at least say, I can't wait to see this fight. Don't say he'll whoop his ass, but once again, say you don't want to see the fight. Because that shows fear. That shows fear. That shows, once again, you guys are the ones that are praising Charlo more than anyone else. Because if you fear your guy's going to lose, you guys are the ones that are hyping Jermall Charlo up. I just want to see a good fight. I don't care who wins the fight. I want to see a good fight. Even if I could see it in a crystal ball, even if I could see Jermall Charlo get knocked out against Canelo, I still want to see the fight. Why? Because I want to see who is the best at 160 at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if we find out Canelo is the best, Danny Jacobs is the best, Charlo, anyone else. We want a conclusion at the end of the day. We want a Super Bowl. We want a gold medal match. You think football fans are going to say they don't want to see their team play against a certain team in the Super Bowl because they think their team may possibly lose? So therefore, they're not going to watch the Super Bowl? Of course not. And we know that would never happen in football, because when it comes to football, football is not as much about race, nationality, and pride as boxing is. The majority of football players are black and white. So you don't have any teams representing a nationality or race when it comes to football. That's the difference from boxing. So I'll close out with saying this. If Gennady Golovkin truly agrees with the decafs and he believes that Charlo was exposed, Charlo is really not that good, Charlo is a bum, Charlo is just as easy to beat as Vanes Martirosyan was, then Gennady Golovkin, he would oblige the WBC orders and he will fight against Charlo next. Let's see what happens. And the same thing applies for Canelo Alvarez, but I believe Canelo, he has more options, because Canelo, even though he should be fighting Charlo next, if he fights against Danny Jacobs, he won't get any backlash. He won't receive that much backlash because Danny Jacobs is also a champion. And that fight would make sense. That's another 50-50 fight. Even though in that fight, I slightly lean towards Canelo Alvarez, and I explained on many videos why. But just in case you guys didn't hear me say it, I said that I truly believe that Canelo Alvarez, he can beat Danny Jacobs a couple different ways. There's a possibility that Canelo may be better than Danny Jacobs and he can beat him fairly, or he could possibly beat him with the judges, because we know that if a fight is close, you're not going to get the nod against Canelo Alvarez. As far as I'm concerned, the only way Danny Jacobs beats Canelo is if he wins at least 9 rounds to 3. Or if he wins the round so decisively, it's almost impossible to give the round to Canelo Alvarez. And I personally don't see Danny Jacobs putting on that type of performance, but this is boxing and you just never know what's going to happen. Hopefully, if Canelo doesn't fight Charlo next, he should be fighting against Danny Jacobs. Those really should be the only 2 options. Canelo already said that he doesn't want to fight Gennady Golovkin next, or at least Golden Boy. They said that Gennady Golovkin, he's going to have to fight Charlo before he can get another fight with Canelo Alvarez. And we know that most likely will not happen. So Let's see how this all plays out. Now, Eddie Hearn, he said that he wants to match Canelo up with Danny Jacobs and then Gennady Golovkin. We'll see who Canelo fights next when we get that announcement. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
L&D on the track.